Have you ever wondered what haunted Soviet childhood? Beyond the propaganda, ration lines, and parades, there existed an invisible world, a world of whispered fears, mysterious vanishings, and chilling urban legends. If you think only Western kids swapped tales of Slenderman or Bloody Mary, try listening to the stories that crept through Soviet playgrounds, cramped apartments, and distant summer camps. These tales rarely made headlines, but they shaped the nightmares and sometimes the real lives of millions who grew up behind the Iron Curtain. Tonight, we're opening the archives on some of the strangest, darkest, and most unique Soviet urban legends, stories you've never heard before. That Shodrasa was as much a land of psychological horror as political drama. The Black Volga car of disappearance was the Volga car reserved for party elites and mysterious strangers. For decades, in cities from Moscow to Kyiv, children and adults whispered about the Black Volga, a limousine that prowled the streets, searching for victims. The legend grew. Its driver wasn't just a faceless man, but perhaps a group of deranged nuns. Others swore Satan himself drove, and that the mirrors were really horns. What made it so terrifying? Whenever this car appeared, children vanished. Some said forever, some returned changed. No one ever saw the driver. Some theorists insist it was KGB abduction, some that it was a symbol for the paranoia and untouchable privilege that surrounded power in the Soviet Union. Curtains that kill. Forget stories about haunted mirrors. Soviet kids feared deadly curtains. In every pioneer camp and school, kids told rumors of yellow or black curtains that killed. The tales differed. Black curtains would wrap themselves around your neck if left alone in a room, especially at night. A little girl begged her mother to stay as she fell asleep when morning came. The girl woke to see her mother had been strangled by the curtains. Yellow curtains hid needles. If you touched them, you'd find yourself poisoned and sick by the next day. Did these stories come from real accidents? Possibly, but mostly, they reflected a world where simple objects, furniture, household decor could become deadly out of nowhere, echoing the constant uncertainty of Soviet life. The cursed Chinese carpet. After imported goods flooded Soviet homes, one legend stands out: the cursed Chinese carpet. A woman buys a carpet and hangs it proudly on the wall. At night, her son hears screams. By dawn, she's dead, a terrified look on her face. When police arrive, a clever officer turns off the lights. Suddenly, a glowing image of Mao Zedong appears, lying in a coffin with a green candle. Some versions say imported carpets were embroidered with phosphorus thread in tribute to Mao, meant to frighten Soviet buyers to death. Did it really kill anyone? Likely not, but the myth reveals Soviet anxieties about foreign goods, hidden dangers, and the scariness of the outside world. The Colorado Beetle nightmare. In it, all Soviet horror involved ghosts. Sometimes, the villains were very real and suspiciously American. Starting in the 1950s, a plague of Colorado beetles attacked potato fields. The government blamed American sabotage, claiming enemy planes dropped poisoned insects to starve Soviet citizens. Children were mobilized. Find the beetles. Look for ampules in the fields. Decades later, some believed the beetles were just nature, but the story sparked mass paranoia, linking horror to everyday survival and fueling rumors that the West would stop at nothing. Meat factory rat tellers. Americans joke about rat meat in their hot dogs. In Russia, legends grew darker. Sausage factories, state-owned, were rumored to grind up rats with the meat. Some said workers saw rat tails, paws, and faces mixed into sausages amid clouds of steam. No one could prove it, but the story spread from city to city. Ghosts of the Moscow Metro. Beneath Moscow sprawls one of the world's deepest subway networks. For decades, legends abounded. Strange sounds in unused tunnels, sightings of faceless men, mysterious flashes where a traveler steps into a carriage only to vanish before the next stop. Some blame secret KGB labs, others the spirits of engineers who died during construction. To this day, late-night passengers sometimes report the feeling of being watched, or abandoned carriages moving on their own. Pioneers who disappear. Soviet summer camps were supposed to build loyalty and fun. Yet behind the bonfires and songs lingered darker secrets. Every year, stories spread of children who left on hikes and never returned. Camp counselors hushed it up, blaming wolves or mistakes. But some whispered about lost zones, areas on the edge of the woods, cursed since the revolution, where strange events occurred. Many adults, now grown, recall maps with forbidden corners and warnings never to go exploring, sometimes with good reason. Soviet Yetis and cryptids. America has Bigfoot. Russia had its own wild monsters described in reports from the Pamir Mountains, Kazakhstan, and Siberia. Wild men with shaggy hair, enormous feet, glowering red eyes. Folk tales claims they stole food, tools, and sometimes children, living in caves and only seen in twilight. Expeditions tried to track them, none succeeded. But across Russia, stories kept children and adults afraid of wandering too far from home or braving local forests at night. The Dyatlov Pass incident, perhaps the most notorious real-life legend, is the unsolved mystery of Dyatlov Pass. In 1959, 9 young hikers perished in the Ural Mountains. Their tent was sliced open. From the inside they fled in the freezing night, some barefoot, some partially dressed. Their bodies bore uncanny injuries: crushed skulls, broken ribs, missing eyes and tongues. Radioactivity was found at the site. No one agrees what happened. Secret weapon tests, mysterious local spirits, aliens, or Soviet cover-up. The story became a trauma for a generation, spawning countless retellings and a warning about the dangers of crossing boundaries, real or supernatural. Forbidden broadcasts with Soviet TV tightly controlled. Any rumor of banned shows was fuel for a new urban legend. Children whispered about phantom cartoons that aired late at night, where characters spoke in riddles about vanished friends, secret police, or rebellious acts. Some said there were TV frequencies only special receivers could access, broadcasting images of ghosts, strange machines, or warnings from the future possibly aimed at enemies or spies. The truth, most was pure rumor, but those stories fueled a generation's fascination with the unknown and fear of what really happened behind closed doors. The Kvas-barrel cat food safety was a running Soviet joke. The story goes, at a neighborhood Kvas stand, a cat vanished. Locals said it fell into the barrel. Weeks later, the Kvas tasted odd. People swore they saw the cat again, alive but changed tail longer, eyes unblinking, haunting every new bottle. A silly story, maybe, but it blended real Soviet fears about food and quality with ghostly absurdity. A taste of everyday horror. Why did Soviet horror work like this? Soviet folklore had its own flavor. Horror and paranoia blended with real everyday anxieties, trust, scarcity, surveillance, change. Urban legends let people laugh, shiver, and share secrets in a country where secrets were both common and dangerous. The mix of slightly possible and absolutely wild made every story both warning and entertainment. Survival through myth. Americans wonder why these tales feel so different. In Russia, the best horror was hidden in ordinary life: a car, a curtain, a sandwich, a summer camp. That's why these legends endure. Haunting, funny, always strange, and just maybe true. If you grew up in America, you might never guess that Soviet childhood was shaped by disappearing cars, killer curtains, cryptid monsters, and poisoned beetles. But for millions, these stories were real enough to keep them awake at night and interesting enough to survive. Decades after Russia itself was gone,